Hey everyone, welcome back to another Brewmaster video. Today I wanted to go over my flag carrying build. I've been trying to practice this build exclusively for flag carrying and just seeing how viable Brewmaster Monk can be for carrying the flag. And I've had quite some good success with it, especially with some of the updated talent changes for Brewmaster that we'll kind of talk here in a bit about that make their survivability a little bit better now versus what it was earlier in Dragonflight. And so to start with the left tree, some important talents you want to have, and this is all focused on mobility, being able to kite and run away, and damage mitigation or survivability. So it's a blend of mobility and survivability. And so some key talents you want to have, Tiger's Lust is one of your most important ones to have. This will remove roots and give you a speed increase for a few seconds. So you definitely want to have that one. You can kind of go either one here. I prefer disable because you're in more control of the target that you hit with it. But if you want to have just a passive ability and one less keybind, you could go with crashing momentum. And these both apply snares. Bounding agility will increase the distance of your roll or chi torpedo. So you definitely want to have that to get as much distance as you can. Grace the Crane increases self-healing. That's definitely a great option to have, as well as Vivacious Vivification. This will make your Vivify an instant cast every 10 seconds. That's important to have as well. Calming Presence reduces all damage you take. That's always nice. Detox is especially important against DKs and rogues, mainly assassination rogues, when they apply their poisons to you and snare you. This will remove all of that. That's really important to have. Jade Walk will increase your movement speed while out of combat. This is really good for just the extra speed when you're running flag and no one's attacked you yet. Let's see. Transcendence is a must-have. This is your port ability. You definitely want to have this. I like to run Chi Torpedo because it gives you an increased movement speed buff for I think 10 seconds, and then it stacks. So you actually get a 60% movement speed for 10 seconds, which is great. This reduces the snare effect on you by 20%. That's really good. Ring of Peace is important because you want to be able to either knock people away from you or maybe you want to block the entrance to the tunnel when you're running flag on like Warsong Gulch, for example. It'll give you some time to just put distance between yourself and the enemy team. Leg Sweep is nice, increases the range of your AoE stun, which is great to have. Vigorous Expulsion, these are going to amplify your self-healing with Expel Harm, because these are important to have. I always run Yulon's Grace, just because over the period of a game, it has a much higher impact than Diffuse Magic. Diffuse Magic is good for burst scenarios, but you have a lot of other mitigation tools to survive through a lot of damage, even though you take more magic damage, but I find that has a bigger impact over a game versus this. So I always run Yulon's Grace, and I've had good success with it. Fortifying Brood, one of your main big defensive cooldown that's important to have. Dampen Harm is another main defensive cooldown that's important to have. Swift Art, this where your roll or torpedo will remove a snare every 30 seconds. That's really good to have. This reduces the cooldown of Fortifying Brew. This reduces or increases magical damage done, which is not important, but more importantly, it increases your healing done, which is great to have. And this is an ability which makes Transcendence really powerful. This will heal you each time you port. And if you partner that up with Escape from Reality, you're able to do that twice in 10 seconds. So it'll heal you for 30% of your health. That's really good to have. Wind Walking is another mobility. Talent is stacked with all movement increased effects. And it's also helped your team get a little bit of speed as well. So that's good to have. Bounce Back is just a damage mitigation from taking big hits. That's a good one to have. And then Lighter Than Air is really important because this will allow you to do a small lunge right after you roll within 5 seconds. But more importantly, it allows you to run across the water. And then, for example, off of Twin Peaks, if you're Horde and you Chi Torpedo off the top of the platform, you can break your fall. So you can Chi Torpedo, and before you hit the ground, kind of like a made blink where you blink before you hit the ground, you can lunge and it'll break your fall so you take no damage. This is really awesome. And this gives you a little extra distance after each torpedo for kiting. So just an overall excellent ability to have. And then the last one we have is Flow of Chi. This one kind of has a 3-in-1 effect. It increases your movement speed when you're above 90% health, which is great. And then when you're in between 90 and 35, you take 5% reduced damage. But then also it has a great self-healing attribute when you're below 35% health, which is where monks used to struggle really hard with. You increase your self-healing or increase healing received also by 10%. So that's amazing. That's everything on the monk side of the tree. Coming to the brewmaster side, it's going to be very similar to the survivability build I have in my other video. But just some really important talents you just want to make sure that you're running with are going to be Elixir of Determination. So this is one of those abilities that is new to Brewmaster Monk that helps you survive when you're low health, which monks used to struggle really hard with earlier in Dragonflight. So this has made Monk much more um, applicable in regard to holding flag because they can survive, they can survive the damage better. And I've actually experienced that firsthand. So this has been a huge help in me staying alive. So definitely need this. Celestial Brew is a must-have. This is going to be a big bubble for you while you're trying to stay alive. And you're using your purifying brews to cleanse the stagger. And that's going to make your Celestial Brew bigger. So this is a must-have. August Blessing is just a nice heal over time effect. I can't say it's super impactful, but it's an additional self healing ability for yourself. So I always recommend that, especially when you're just trying to stay alive. One with the wind, you have some elusive brawler attributes in here. Elusive brawler is only going to be really effective against melee, and that's going to kind of play hand in hand with your stat priority as well. So as a Brewmaster Monk, your best stats for staying alive are crit and versatility. Um, the reason being is because crit goes hand in hand with your one of your passives, which is called Celestial Fortune, and it gives you a chance equal to your crit chance to be healed for an additional 80% of the amount healed. So if you use Expel Harm and it hits you for 300k, there's a depending on your crit chance, mine is right at like 43 or 48% in PvP combat. It's almost like a 50% chance that I'm going to get an additional heal on top of that for an additional 150. This is huge. This is the bread and butter of your survivability and self-healing outside of your defensives. So crit and burst are definitely the number one stats you want to have. Elusive Brawler goes hand in hand with Mastery, which each time you're hit by a melee or you use Blackout Kick, you get a gaining stack to dodge the next melee attack. And to give you an idea of what this looks like, you'll see this little buff here. It'll occur every time you Blackout Kick or take a melee, but it's constantly stacking and it's always occurring. So, and it increases every time you do Blackout Kick or if you get hit. So this mastery, whenever you scale up mastery, it's just going to increase the occurrence of that. But because it happens so quickly and so often, trying to stack mastery as a Brewmaster Monk, especially when you're trying to survive, isn't very viable. So crit and versatility are going to be your favored stats for survivability and flag running. And moving on from there, let's see. So Zen meditation, this is a long cooldown one. I use it whenever I'm taking a bunch of damage. They removed the ability or the talent that allowed you to move with it. So just be aware that you can no longer cast this while moving. You need to be stationary. So I usually try and save this while I'm on the flag cap or in a position maybe within my base to when I'm taking a bunch of damage, just trying to stay alive. It can be interrupted as well. So it's kind of an optional talent if you want to take it. I prefer to have it just because it's one extra defensive for me to use to try and stay alive. And then from here you have Gal Plin's Imperial Brew. This heals you for a portion of all the stagger damage you clear. That's good to have. Invoke Nazal Black Ox is a great defensive. It lasts for 25 seconds, so even though it's a 3-minute cooldown, it's really good when you're taking a bunch of damage because he helps stagger a large portion of that. So I like using the Black Ox. And you can use it offensively too, like maybe you have a rogue or someone that's on you and trying to slow you down. When you're running Detox, you can clear all the poison to keep moving, but this will allow you can cast Black Ox and it'll keep the rogue in combat. That way he can't zap you again. So just depending on the situation and what's going on, this is a good one to have both defensively and offensively. Tranquil Spirit's another passive. Whenever you use Expel Harm or consume your healing spheres, it clears stagger for you. Fortifying Brew Determination is going to increase your stagger effectiveness whenever you cast your Fort Brew. That's always good. And this is a questionable one here. I've always run Black Ox Brew. It's so strong because it's labeled as a brew, so all your damage abilities effectively reduce its cooldown. But also it gives you an immediate access to 2 additional charges of Purifying Brew, as well as reset the cooldown of your Celestial Brew. And this has saved me a ton, especially when you're taking consistent heavy damage. Maybe a healer's not around, or it's just the entire team's on you. So while you're actively mitigating damage with Purifying Brew, and then you've already cast your first Celestial Brew, but you're in a pinch you're in a pinch and just need more, you can hit Black Ox Brew and you instantly have access to these again. So it's saved me more times than I can count. So I definitely recommend this option over Bob and Weave. Bob and Weave is a great passive ability, but as a flag carrier, you're going to be taking a lot of heavy damage, and so I feel like Black Ox Brew is much more effective in helping you stay alive. Light Brewing reduces the cooldown of Purifying Brew and Celestial Brew. That's always great because you want to be able to clear stagger as often as you can. Then we have High Tolerance, which makes stagger more effective. You don't really benefit too much from haste, but the stagger effectiveness is the main thing you're going for here. Exploding Keg, I would say, is a must-have because this is going to be great against melee DPS that are on you. If you're taking heavy damage, you can throw this at your feet, and all the melee attacks against you for the next 3 seconds will completely miss. So it's a really good defensive to have. Let's see. This just increases. That's with elusive brawler stacks. That's not too crazy. Ox Stance is a new talent given to Brewmaster Monk. This is another one that helped with Brewmaster survivability. So whenever you take a really big hit, it'll increase your staggered effectiveness with that damage. And then you also get stacked of Ox Stance just from using Rising Sun Kick. And then this one is if you take 50% of your damage, this reduces it to 40, so it'll occur more often. It'll protect you more often. And the last two we have, Stormed Out the Last Keg. This gives you an additional charge of Keg Smash. This is important because whenever you use Keg Smash, it reduces the cooldown of all your brews, and that's your main cooldown reduction ability toward your brews. So having 2 charges of that is awesome, and that's going to play hand in hand with this last ability here called Blackout Combo. You'll see Keg Smash reduces your remaining cooldown of your brews by additional 2 seconds. So by itself, it only does 3, but if you were to Blackout Kick into a Keg Smash, it reduces all your brews by 5 seconds. If you do that twice, you're already at 10 seconds. So it's just a super powerful combination to have for your brew cooldown, to be able to have them more often for mitigating damage and self-healing and surviving. So those are all the talents. In regard to PvP, these are going to be ones centered around flag carrying. The number 1 talent I would say is going to be Nizal's Essence. So this is going to remove snares from you. It does not work on roots, so don't make the mistake of trying to remove roots with this. The only ability you have to remove roots is your Tiger's Lust, but this is for snares. This is against warriors, hamstrings, hunters, concussion shots, mages, passive frost, frost snare, any snare. So this is great to have. And another reason that Black Ox Brew is so amazing and so beneficial is, let's say you're just constantly getting snared, you've already used 2 charges, you can just use your Black Ox Brew and it gives an instant 2 more charges to remove 2 more snares. So you're just constantly removing snare just from this ability. And also you have this ability over here, whenever you roll, it removes a snare. This reduces snare effect on you. So the most important thing is just you're trying to stay mobile to keep moving, which is the flag carrier's job, is to try and kite and get across the map as quickly as possible. So a must-have option here. The next one, you could switch this around. I like to run double barrel because it's an AoE stun, and so it's great defensively because you can stun everyone to prevent damage for 3 seconds. But but also damage doesn't break stuns. Whereas if you were to run Hot Trub, and let's say you got this proc and you disoriented everyone, damage breaks the disorient. So sometimes it's almost become useless if you have your team trying to kill the enemy team on top of you. So I prefer to run double barrel. If you wanted to switch this out, you could take a couple options depending on how you want to play. Dematerialize is a great one. It reduces the amount of damage you take while you're stunned, and this is great against stun heavy teams like with warriors and ret paladins and rogues, etc. Another option you could do is guided meditation, and this will go hand in hand with your Zen meditation. It reduces the cooldown, which is probably the most important aspect of this ability. But also, maybe if you're losing the team fight, you can cast this and it'll absorb all the harmful spells cast on on your own teammates within 40 yards. It'll absorb it all. So this is a great team support ability. Just an optional one if you want to try it out. I've used it a few times. I like to run this one whenever I'm trying to support maybe another flag carrier, like I don't know, maybe a druid healer or a boomy or someone just has picked it up and they're running it for you. This is good to have on hand if you need to use it in that scenario. And then the other option, you could go with the avert harm. It's more of a support ability. Just helps stagger some of the damage your teammates are taking. Nimble Brew is a good one. This will prevent the loss of control effects on you. But the ones I usually play with are going to be these two, and then last but not least, we have Micro Brew, which reduces the cooldown of Fortifying Brew by half. And then that paired with this cooldown for Fortifying Brew makes it only a 2-minute cooldown, so you get access to it a lot more. And so I've used that, and that's helped me stay alive. And so this is the talent tree. These are the PvP talents I generally run, and I've really much enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. I've had some great success with it. I'm excited to try it out in the new War Within expansion, even and with the upcoming hero talents. We'll see how that goes. But for the current pre-patch, this is what I'm running, and I've been having good success with it. So let me know what you think. Try it out. Please leave a comment if you have any recommendations or questions, and I will see you guys in the next one.